Scary telling.
Before I can go to sleep, I have to check all the doors around the house. If they're all locked, I move on to the next house. It's a strange ritual, but it's become a part of my nightly routine. You see, I'm a real estate agent, and I'm responsible for showing houses to potential buyers. I've been doing this for years, and I've seen my fair share of strange houses. But there's one particular neighborhood that always gives me the creeps. It's an old neighborhood, with houses that have been there for decades. Most of them have been renovated and updated, but some of them still look like they're straight out of a horror movie. And every time I have to show a house in that neighborhood, I can't help but feel like something is off. I remember the first time I had to show a house in that neighborhood. It was a beautiful Victorian-style house, but it was clear that no one had lived there for years. The windows were boarded up, and the yard was overgrown with weeds. But I had a job to do, so I went inside. The inside of the house was even worse than the outside. The walls were covered in peeling wallpaper, and there was a musty smell that seemed to permeate every room. But the thing that really freaked me out was the fact that all of the doors were locked from the outside. I tried to open them, but they wouldn't budge. It was like someone had locked the doors and then left the house to rot. I eventually gave up and left the house, feeling more than a little unnerved. Ever since that day, I've made it a point to check all of the doors in the houses I show. I don't know why, but it just makes me feel better. And so far, I've never had any problems. But tonight, something feels different. As I'm walking through the neighborhood, checking doors, I can't shake the feeling that I'm being watched. I keep turning around, but I don't see anything. I try to push the feeling aside and continue checking doors, but it just gets stronger. It's like a heavy weight on my shoulders, and I can't shake it off. I start to walk faster, checking the doors as quickly as I can, but I can't seem to make the feeling go away. As I'm checking the door of a particularly old and run-down house, I hear a noise behind me. It's faint, but it's there. I turn around, but I don't see anything. I tell myself it's just my imagination playing tricks on me, and I turn back to the door. That's when I hear it again. This time, it's louder. I turn around again, but still, there's nothing there. I'm starting to feel a little panicky now, and I decide to cut my check short and head back to my car. But as I'm walking back, I hear the noise again. It's coming from one of the houses I've already checked. I turn around, and I see a figure in the window. It's hard to make out in the darkness, but it looks like a person. I freeze, not sure what to do. Should I go check on them? Call the police? Or just run away as fast as I can? I decide to go check on them. It's probably just someone who got locked out of their house, right? As I approach the house, I can see the figure more clearly. It's definitely a person, and they're staring right at me. I call out to them, but they don't respond. They just keep staring. I try the door, but it's locked. I knock, but no one answers. I'm about to give up and call the police when I notice something strange. The windows are all boarded up from the inside. I start to feel sick to my stomach. Why would someone board up all the windows in their house? And why are they just standing there, staring at me? I'm about to leave when I hear the noise again. This time, it's coming from inside the house. It's a shuffling noise, like someone's moving around. I'm terrified, but I can't help but investigate. I take a deep breath and slowly approach the house. The shuffling noise is getting louder and I can hear faint whispers. My heart is pounding in my chest as I reach for the doorknob. As soon as I touch the knob, I feel a chill run down my spine. It's like the entire house is alive and it's trying to warn me to stay away. But I can't back out now, not when there might be someone in trouble inside. I push the door open and the noise stops abruptly. I step inside and close the door behind me, but the darkness is so thick I can barely see a thing. I take out my phone and turn on the flashlight. The first thing I notice is the smell. It's a mix of mold, decay, and something else that I can't quite place. Then, I see something move in the corner of my eye. I turn the flashlight in that direction, but there's nothing there. Suddenly, I hear footsteps behind me. I whirl around, but there's no one there. I'm starting to feel like I'm losing my mind. I turn to leave, but the door won't budge. It's like someone's holding it shut from the other side. That's when I see her. A little girl, standing at the end of the hallway. She's wearing a white dress and she's staring right at me. I try to ask her if she's okay, but my voice catches in my throat. The little girl starts to walk towards me, and as she gets closer, I can see that her face is twisted in a grotesque smile. I'm paralyzed with fear, and I can't move. She's right in front of me now, and I can feel her breath on my face. And then, she's gone. Just like that. The house is silent once again. I run to the door and this time, it opens easily. I stumble out into the night, gasping for breath. I'm shaking and I can't stop the tears from coming. What the hell just happened? I glance back at the house, and I see a figure in the window. It's the little girl again, waving at me. I turn and run, not stopping until I reach my car. I sit there for a while, trying to calm down. What did I just see? Was it a ghost? Or was I just hallucinating? Whatever it was, I know that I never want to go back to that house again. The next few days were a blur. I couldn't stop thinking about the little girl in the white dress. Was she trying to tell me something? Was she a warning of some sort? I tried to brush it off as a trick of the mind, but the memory of her twisted smile wouldn't leave me alone. Despite my fear, I couldn't help but feel drawn to that old house. I knew it was dangerous, but there was something about it that called to me. I decided to do some research on the history of the house, hoping to find some answers. As it turned out, the house had a dark past. It had been owned by a wealthy family in the early 1900s, but tragedy struck when their young daughter went missing. They searched for her for months, but she was never found. Rumors started to spread that the little girl had been murdered by her own father, who had gone insane after losing his fortune in the stock market crash. He supposedly buried her in the house, and her ghost had haunted the place ever since. The more I read, the more convinced I became that what I had seen was real. The little girl in the white dress was the ghost of the murdered girl, and she was trying to tell me something. I knew I had to go back to that house. I needed to find out what the little girl wanted, and maybe even help her find peace. So, one night, I found myself standing in front of the old house once again. This time, I was prepared. I had brought a camera, a voice recorder, and a flashlight. I was going to document everything and hopefully get some answers. I pushed open the door and stepped inside. The house was still as dark and eerie as ever, but this time I was determined not to be afraid. I started to explore the house, taking pictures and recording my voice as I went. But something was different this time. The air was thick with tension, and I could feel a presence watching me. It was like the ghost of the little girl was right behind me, whispering in my ear. Suddenly, I heard a faint voice on the recorder. It was so quiet that I almost missed it, but when I played it back, I could hear it clearly. It was the voice of a little girl, saying, "Help me." I felt a chill run down my spine. Was it the little girl's voice? Was she trying to communicate with me? I followed the voice, and it led me to a locked door in the basement. I knew I shouldn't go in there, but I couldn't resist. I had to know what was inside. I found a key in one of the drawers and unlocked the door. What I saw inside made my blood run cold. There, in the middle of the room, was a small wooden coffin. And inside the coffin was the mummified body of a little girl wearing a white dress. I stumbled back, my heart racing in my chest. It was the little girl from my dreams, the same one I had seen outside the house. I couldn't believe it was real. How could someone do this to a child? As I stood there, frozen in horror, I heard a faint whisper. "Help me," the little girl's voice said again. I knew I had to do something. I couldn't leave her there, all alone in the dark. I reached out to touch her, but as soon as my hand brushed against the coffin, the room started to spin. I felt myself being pulled down into the darkness. I tried to resist, but it was like I was being sucked in by a whirlpool. The last thing I saw was the little girl's twisted smile, and then everything went black. When I woke up, I was lying on the ground outside the house. My head was pounding, and my body felt like it had been run over by a truck. I tried to sit up, but I was too weak. As I lay there, gasping for breath, I realized that something was different. The house was gone. It had vanished into thin air, leaving nothing but an empty lot behind. I stumbled to my feet and looked around, disoriented. Was it all just a dream? Had I imagined everything? But then I saw something that made me realize it was all too real. In my hand, I was clutching a small, white dress. I felt a chill run down my spine as I looked at the dress. It was the same one the little girl had been wearing, the same one the mummified body had been wearing. I knew then that the little girl's ghost was finally at peace. She had led me to her body, and now she could rest. But I also knew that I would never forget what had happened. The memory of that house and the little girl's twisted smile would haunt me for the rest of my life.